Hey, how's it going? Uznik here in the KV-5, bringing you some gameplay footage in the Tier 8 Russian premium tank. Now, for the most part, the KV-5 is kind of identical to the KV-4 in that it has a whole bunch of armor. It's able to deflect a fair amount of enemy shells. It does get premium matchmaking, so at the highest it usually sees Tier 8s and 9s. But don't be surprised if you get into a tier 10 game based on server population and platoons. If somebody is platooned up with a tier 10, you might see a tier 10, but it's not common in the KV-5. Let's go ahead and talk about the weaknesses of this big giant tank. In the front you see two turrets. One is going to be the driver's turret, the other one is the radio man turret. The radio man turret is the taller one and is the weaker of the two. Any shots that goes through that is going to have a chance to take out your radio man. So at that sense, the radio man and the commander are the two most common crew members knocked out of this thing. I would highly suggest not to use the large first aid kit, simply because you're going to be losing at least your commander or your radio man throughout a game, and it's best to lose the radio man rather than the commander, because the commander has most useful perks. But now armor is where the KV-5 really shines. The armor thickness is pretty decent in all the other areas except for the two turrets in the front and the commander's cupola on the top. If you notice, the front of the turret is already angled fairly well. You're going to get the best turret armor by facing your turret directly at an enemy instead of tilting it to the side with the KV-4. If you do tilt it to the side, you're going to give one of your flat plates straight off to the enemy. They're going to have a higher chance of penetrating, which is not good for you, as that will actually take out your gunner or even your loader based on where it's going to hit in that turret. So you're probably asking, how is the best way to use this tank? Well, you could try to snipe people, but with the Russian gun you're not going to get too much progress. As you've already seen in the video, I tried to take some shots at a KV-5 across the way. Didn't hit anywhere near the tank at all because the accuracy of this gun is not too good. Now if you get in close range, you keep your tank moving, you're able to put in some pretty decent firing shots, and while the enemy is trying to hit your weaker turrets, you can actually be putting a lot more damage on them. So basically you should always try to keep yourself advancing toward the enemy with support. You do have a lot of weight behind this tank. As you see, the tanks are trying to take out my tracks, so I don't try to ram them, which I highly suggest a large repair kit and a toolbox outload, simply because you're going to be spending most of the time tracked if you give the enemies opportunities to shoot you in the tracks. Now right here I am surrounded by 3 tanks, however I do have friendly support from the T-150 who follow me up this flank. So if I can keep these guys busy, the T-150 is able to do some good damage. I ran the J-Panther to take him on out of the game, and this KV-45 starts to give me trouble, since auto aim doesn't really give you the best chance of penetrating, so you actually have to take the time to try to aim your shots at a weak spot. I get a free shot at this Lorraine, and then I turn my attention to the KV-45. This is becoming quite the boxing match between these two tanks. Each shot that I try to put in through auto aim does not penetrate at all. But the best thing about it is his gun is not really able to do too much damage to me while I'm trying to box this out with him. The friendly T-150 is trying to put in as much damage as he can without overexposing the tank, and we take him out. Now the Ramatov Borsig at the end of this hill, it kind of hung back and did not take advantage of the whole situation. I take aim, he shoots and deflects. That's a pretty amazing shot that did not go through the turret. I was really surprised. So then all the rest of the team kind of close in on this guy. I get the killing shot, and now all we got left is one artillery near the base, and he just gets taken out. And that's pretty much it. The rest of the game is pretty much taken care of. I just hang out at the base and collect some capture points, since the tank is fairly slow and it's not going to be able to go all the way across the map to try to take out any tanks. So that was the first game that I played in the KV-5. It's a really fun tank as long as you keep yourself moving and nobody shoots at your weak spots too much. And this is another game in the KV-5 on Airfield War. It's a tier 8 high game. Each team has 2 tier 8s. So I decide, oh what the heck, I'm going to go straight to the middle. Now on this map I'm not too familiar with the map layout, especially with all the demolished buildings around, so I'm like, okay, well this is a tier 8 in front of me, I'm going to follow him and he's probably going to go straight for the middle. He has an American tank, he has great gun depression, so he's able to take a hold of the middle hill. And then I was realizing, oh, he's going for the sniping position. Okay, well, let's go for the middle. I get going on down this hill, and as you see, the KV-5 is able to get a little bit over 45 kilometers per hour going downhill. Just imagine if you actually collided with a tank at the bottom of the hill, and it will actually take out almost anybody that you attack. Now right here in the middle, the other tier 8 on the enemy team, I meet him in the middle. It's an Indian Panzer. Indian Panzer doesn't really have too much decent armor, so I'm able to put some damage in on him and dodge his attacks onto me. This shot goes straight through the gun mantlet on the Indian Panzer. That's a testament to how decent the armor on the turret actually is. Now he does take a shot and take out my commander. Since the cupola is a fairly big weak spot on the turret, I put my commander back in action. Then I peek the hill and see that the other tier 8, which is the KV-5, is across the way sniping. As you've seen in the last video, you don't really want to snipe in the KV-5. You're not going to get too much done. All he's doing is hitting my turret and bouncing right off. I do try to get going on this hill without exposing too much of the tank, just to try to keep him busy. So if he's back there trying to shoot at me, he's not going to be shooting at anybody else. So at this point of the game, it is 0-2. We lost 2 tanks. The enemy has not lost any. I'm still trying to focus on this KV-5, trying to get some damage in whenever I see the opportunity. So I switch over to high explosives, because high explosives are able to do damage without going through the armor. You're not restricted to going through the armor in order to deal damage. So I take aim for the commander's hatch and they land a shot. It was a pretty decent roll, not too bad. Then I take aim again and get a shot for a little bit over 100 points. So that kind of freaks him out. He decides that he's going to start charging me. So I get into position to shoot at his tracks, and he gets down at the bottom of the hill. And I reload, take aim once again. This time I go for the front end for some reason and bounces off the front. Now from this angle you can actually see the front end of the KV-5's turret is pretty well sloped. You're not going to be able to do much damage at all to the front end of that turret. The only good place to really shoot at is that radio turret. That'd be on the left side of the tank right there. Now, I do have some company to my right. That is the Black Prince. He's trying to shoot me in the side, so I fall back a little bit, kind of taking that opportunity away from him. Yet again, I need to keep some pressure on this KV-5 to make sure he's not going to get over confident and top this hill, because he does have a pretty heavy tank and he's able to ram me. So then I fall back and take a defensive position at the rocks. Now, if you can cover the two weak spots on the front end of the tank, you're pretty much set for life. So that's what I do. I put the front end blocked by this rock outcrop, and I watch for this KV-5 to top this hill. And sure enough, he's waiting for Churchill 7 to peek the hill as well, and he tops the hill. I try to take a shot at that turret and bounce off the side. You have to hit pretty square on in order to make sure you deal damage, otherwise it'll just bounce off. He tries to take shots at me, and he doesn't really have much chance to really hit me. Every single shot he puts into me is bouncing. Now he comes on down the hill, and he tries to ram me, but he does minimum damage. I take aim for the turret, and he backs on up, and one more shot will take him out, and we take out the KV-5. Now the Churchill 7 is at the top of the hill. He's not feeling too confident with the KV-5 being killed. So I put a shot right into his track to try to keep him in place. He repairs and backs on down the hill. I'm like, well, you're not going to get away that easy. So I go on after him. I look up, the Black Prince is kind of busy, so I'll go ahead and bypass the Black Prince. I see the Churchill 7, take a shot on the move, and I take him out. I start to go back up the hill to go after the Black Prince, but yet again, I'm like, well, let's go straight for the enemy base. I see a A43 up at the enemy base, want to take out that AMX. So I try to close in to put a bit of damage in on him, but I'm not going to be able to make it up there in time. The T-2502 spots me, but there's too many rocks in the way for either one of us to put shots in each other. So I chugging up this hill. I'm like, come on, KV-5, get up the hill, get up the hill. And the A43 takes the last shot right there. Now, with all the tanks dead on the enemy team except for that Black Prince that I bypassed, in hindsight I should have went after the Black Prince instead of going for the enemy base, but yet again I didn't want the A43 to die just because I wasn't able to give the support. So at this point I'm thinking, well, I could probably put some damage in right through here, but I don't get a chance to really do anything because the Black Prince is behind those rocks. So I just wait out the end of the game in the enemy base. So the KB5 is available in the gift shop for 9,000 gold just until the 2nd of May. So if you like the heavy duty tanks, it's able to do some pretty decent ramming damage and also deflecting some shots, and I highly suggest you get a hold of this KV-5. It's a lot of fun.